Hey everybody, what's up? It's Newton with the Club Junkie podcast. Hopefully you're having a great week. It's a Rocket Mortgage, baby. Detroit's own own PGA event. So it's been a great week. I've been out there a little bit. But before we get in today, just want to let you know this episode brought to you by Titleist. And there's a lot of buzz around Titleist Tour Speed, and for good reason. It features a Titleist Performance urethane cover, and like the name says, it's engineered for high speed and delivers very long distance and a penetrating flight on long game shots. You'll also notice a soft feel, an exceptional spin and control on your shots into the green. Looking for a level of performance, tee through green? Titleist Tour Speed has you covered. Learn more about Tour Speed and why it might be the best fit for your game. Visit Titleist.com today. So, Tour Speed, man. I think I talked about it a few weeks ago. Good ball, real good ball. Hopefully you guys have a good week, and it's Rocket Mortgage week. So I've been busy. I've been over at the course, hanging out at the tournament. Saw a bunch of people that I haven't seen in a long time, which is pretty awesome. And it's just fun. I love having a tournament back in the home state. I remember I used to go. If you're familiar with it, if you remember, they used to do the Buick Open over at Warwick Hills, which is probably about an hour, a little more than an hour north of Detroit. And I used to go to that every year, and it was an absolute blast. A buddy of mine and I used to go. We had a friend. She used to work like the hospitality tents for GM, so there'd be like a big GM tent, and employees and other VIPs, whatever, would get wristbands to go in and have refreshments and stuff like that, a place to hang out. And so we'd go in, we'd pay for parking, they'd get us free tickets, and then we'd go get our wristband, and we would hang out there and eat some snacks and have something to drink and hang out while we walked around the tournament. And it was always a blast. It was just a fun thing that I used to do. And then when Michigan lost a tournament, didn't have one for a long time, it was a bummer. It was something I liked doing. It was a blast to go to, and I had a lot of fun following players around and stuff like that. And the Rocket when it first came back, or the Rocket Mortgage when it first came back was a huge deal, and went to that. It was a blast. And then I think we had a second year that I think I went to, but then we had the COVID year, and we've been back, so it's been kind of an up and down thing. It is moved back a little bit. I want to say the first year I went, it was like kind of like more around 4th of July. It was beginning of the July. Now running it at the end, but was out there. I was out there on Monday. I was out there today, just hanging out, seeing what was going on. Hung out with Tursky a little bit. Saw Greg. Saw my boy Johnny Wonder. Hung out with a bunch of guys in the tour trucks. So it was an absolute blast. Saw Ryan Barath out there. All those guys that I'm still good friends with and all that. So it was a great time. So it was good seeing everybody, good catching up, having some dinner with some people. And just walking around and hanging out in tour trucks is never a bad thing. So went around and just jumped on truck to truck, went through them all basically, and had a good time. So it was fun. Went out there today. It started raining a little bit. I was out there checking out. Pxg was doing some cool stuff with some Detroit school kids, kind of teaching some science, engineering stuff through golf, which was pretty awesome. So check that out, and then I was walking around a little bit. Me and Tursky were hanging out, and then it just started raining, and I was just like, you know what? It was Pro-Am day. It was pretty dead, just because I think the weather, like I said, just kind of started raining on and off, and I just said, you know what, that's enough. So took off after just a couple hours and headed back home, which was all good. So, but it's a cool tournament. It's a cool old club to go to, and you can really get close to some players on some tees. So if you're in Metro Detroit and have a chance to go check it out. It's pretty cool. Like I said, I walked around just a little bit on a few holes, and a couple of those holes you get to. You're right on the tee box. It's right there. So it's pretty fun. You can get pretty close to people, watch a few shots, and had a good time. So I don't know if I'm going to go over the weekend. I don't know if I will. I'll probably just watch it from home. But I've played the course a few years ago. I think the first year they did it, they had some media out. That was in the tournament. It was beginning of July. They had media out beginning of or end of May, I think it was. I think we played like about a month, just over a month from when the actual tournament happened. And we went out there, and it was actually when Johnny Wonder and Ryan Barath and I, we all they both still were at Golf to Beer X, and we went out and played it. And it was a blast. It was a fun place to play. We went out there, and it was just the three of us. We were supposed to be paired up with a woman we never saw. Like they have a big sheet that says who's playing with who. there was a woman that was supposed to be in a group. She never showed up. So we just went out and played, and they wanted you to play a scramble format out there, and we were kind of bummed about that, but we didn't go down that road. We ended up just playing, and I think I played pretty well there. I think I shot like mid 80s in there. Had a good time, but the rest of it, we had a blast. So, but it was fun. That was good. Played a little golf. I actually played on Sunday. I played yesterday. So I played some golf, and it's just been up and down, man. I'll tell you that. I went out. I went out on Sunday. Played with a couple of guys from Fujikura, a couple of guys from WRX, and it was we went out to dinner, had a good time, and I played best round of the year. Actually drove it phenomenally well. Just hit, every fairway, and shot like 77, and then went out. Was it Tuesday night? And absolutely just crapped the bed. I think I shot 43 on the front with a 9 on the first hole. I hit it OB, and then hit a second tee ball into a spot that was just, it was so below my feet. The ball didn't roll into the bunker. It should have. We played Red Run Country Club, so if you're familiar with it, if you live in Metro Detroit, Red Run. A buddy of mine joined, I think, last year. So we just went out and played, and one's a par 5. There's bunkers. There's a bunker on the right that's kind of right in your landing area. There's one on the left that's a little harder to get to unless you can really nuke it. And the driving range is just right on the right side. And I never hit it right, except that time. So it was OB into the range. Hit my second one left into the rough, and it literally, I don't know how it didn't get in the bunker. It was so close. It was just hanging on the edge in the grass there. They have the rough grown out pretty long, and it was so below my feet. I barely got the club. I hit it, the last 2 grooves of the face is all I basically got on the ball. So at least advanced that, and then, tried to hit the hero, long iron into the green and all that. And it was just, it ended up being an absolute mess. So, struggled there, but then brought it back to shoot a 43. Played pretty decent on the front after that hole. And then on the back 9, it just, everything fell apart. I didn't hit one fairway. I don't think I hit one fairway. The only holes I played decent were the par 3s. I think I made par on all those, and the rest of them I just literally made bogeys and double bogeys from under every tree you could absolutely imagine. I think I hit 0 greens in regulation, and so it was quite unique. It was the first time I've used the exception or exceptional round in my handicap, where I've been shooting terrible scores, and all of a sudden put in a 77, and it dropped me down from I think I was up the high 11s. I think it was like 11.7 or something like that, down to a 9.7 immediately. So it dropped 2 strokes on my handicap for putting that 77, and then putting in I think it was like 94. I think I shot 51 on the back. It was just an absolute nightmare. The wheels just fell. Thankfully I was playing with some friends, and we had a good time still. My brother, 2 buddies, we went out and played. We had a good time, so we had a bunch of laughs, and it was fun. But man, I tell you what, it was a rough go in terms of playing. And I'll tell you what, the biggest problem is just getting off the tee. And on Sunday, absolutely nuked the ball off the tee, just literally hit everything. And then on Tuesday, I couldn't hit a fairway to save my life. It was just, realistically, I brought 2 drivers. I should have put them both away. And just tried to hit either 3-wood or whatever, just get something out there, and I didn't, but I should have, and it was just it was an absolute mess. So did not play well there, and it was a little demoralizing, but it is what it is. But I've been hitting a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, hitting some stuff that I'm not going to be able to talk about anytime soon. But it is it is what it is. I got some new stuff to talk about that we'll have to wait until a little later in the next month to chat about. But pretty excited about it. Some cool products that I got my hands on a little early, which is awesome. But yeah, it was it's been a struggle of a year, man. Golf this year in terms of I've been having a lot of fun because I think I'm taking it less serious as I get older. I'm kind of realizing there's a lot more to life than just focusing on scores, and which I guess is kind of a cop-out when you're playing poorly. But it's also been really frustrating. It's just a frustrating time to know how you played before and to not be able to get back to that, which wasn't even that low of a level. I think at one point, I was like a 7 point something, like a 7.8, 7.9 at one point in terms of handicap. And then, kind of slowly creeped up. And then this year, everything's just shot up, and it's just it's hard to it's harder to accept. I mean, I'm getting to be able to accept it more, but it's not easy. And I mean, if it's me, like I don't practice. I mean, I think I've said it 1,000 times. I mean, my wife is absolutely amazing when it comes to golf, and if there's a round to be played, I can go play. She'll never, she's never, rarely ever stopped me from playing, which is great. But I just don't practice. Like it's it's my own choice too. I mean, I don't go to the range. I'd rather, stay home and see my wife and daughter instead of like working all day and then going to the range. Like it's just, I mean, that's a lot of my choice as well. But it's just, it's tough, man. It's tough to just. And the thing is, it's not like I'm hitting these shots. I'm just like topping it and chunking it everywhere and all that. Like I'm hitting the ball solid. It's just it's a two-way miss. It's like it's not even like, oh, I'm hitting a big cut. I'll just play the left side of the green and hopefully catch the right side or anything like that. It's if I aim, I can miss it way left. I can miss it way right. It doesn't really matter. There's no consistency on where I'm missing the ball. So I can't even play one side of the course or anything like that. It just isn't working that way. But which is unfortunate, but like I said, at least I'm still having fun. I'm not, tossing too many clubs. I think I did heave a wedge on one of the par fives where I made an 8, and I was on my way to make an 8. I got the ball, hit my wedge onto the green, heaved it across over towards the carts, and and picked it up. But I've been doing less of that, and just trying to still have fun. But it's been a disappointing year in golf in terms of my actual play. It's just been a struggle, and it's not getting better anytime before I stop. And unfortunately, next weekend for me is so the first weekend in July or first weekend in August is my big golf outing, my Sragwa outing as we call it. The initials I don't think actually spell out Sragwa exactly, but it's how we pronounce it. And my annual the Scott Ruhlman annual Golf Guys Weekend, which was penned long before I even played in it, but pays homage to a very good friend of my brother and all their friends who unfortunately passed away in high school years ago. But he was a great guy. He was a really funny kid. I remember hanging out with him when he'd come over my parents' house, hanging out with my brother and stuff like that. So it's a cool little thing. They do kind of fundraise, money in his name and stuff like that. So it's a blast. But we have a good time. We have 16 guys. Like I said, I think I've said this before, but 16 guys. Play a little Ryder Cup format, 8-on-8, and we do modified alternate shot, 2-man best ball, 2-man scramble, 2-man, or then we do match play and stuff like that. So kind of a little bit of everything in terms of playing. And this year should be a lot of fun. I think it was drafted far higher than I should have. I think it was the second pick in the draft, which is not good because the guy who was the first pick I played with on Tuesday, and he was 15 strokes better than me at the end of the round. We calculated all the scores, so that's going to be a little tough to make up. But it's still a good time. We have some fun. They have a couple beverages out on the course. Like I think I've said before, it's competitive, but it's not so crazy where you're gonna not give a guy a yardage if you're lasering the par 3 or whatever it is. That stuff doesn't play out. Everybody has a good time, and then at the end of the night, you kind of just all hang out and play cards, have a few drinks, whatever, and then go to bed, get up, and do it again. So we play 36 Friday, 36 Saturday, 18 Sunday, and head home, and it's a good time. So we that is coming up next week, which should be fun. I'm excited to play in it. I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited. I have a feeling I'm going to not win a whole lot of points for my team, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. But we'll have a good time, and I'm excited to get out there. I don't know bag-wise what I'm bringing yet. I know I'm going to bring 2 full bags because I do every year. And then last year, I think I brought 2 full bags, and I don't think I really used. I think I swapped out like a driver, and that was. Oh no, I didn't even swap out a driver. I think I played pretty much 1 bag for most of the round. So it was. I didn't change a whole lot, which was pretty interesting because that usually isn't the case. But I'm trying to narrow down what I'm going to play in terms of drivers and stuff like that. But it's not quite there yet, but I'm getting there. So after league tonight, I'm going to play a little bit, I think, on Saturday, and then I'll play again Thursday, and then it's my Thursday 9 holes, and then it's 36, 36, 18. So it's a big go, but yeah, it was like I said, been a rough year in terms of golf scores and all that. So we'll see. We'll see if I can at least maybe find a groove when you play that many rounds. When you play 5 rounds in 3 days. Hopefully I can find a little groove or something, a little bit of magic to at least make my scores respectable and all that. But we'll see. I don't know. We'll find out in a week. Literally a week from today. I'll at this time, which I'm recording Wednesday night at 9:30. I'll be driving up to the northern part of Michigan. We're playing at Garland, so it's going to be a good time. But it's a good resort. Got some good courses. One of the guys went up earlier in the year, so it's in great shape. So we should have a good time. We should have a blast. But yeah, so we'll get into a couple products. I know that's what you guys come here to listen to, not me babble about my terrible golf game and future bad golf that I would be playing. But we'll get into a couple things. So the first thing is basically, I think, a shaft that I've been teasing for like a week or two. And it's basically kind of a first entry into a wood shaft for breakthrough golf technology. So BGT or Breakthrough Golf are the people who bring you the stability putter shafts. If you haven't messed with those yet or don't know what they are, stability kind of was one of the bigger pushes into graphite putter shafts or multi-material putter shafts, and really focusing on the stability of putter shafts. And they made the Stability Tour, and now they make a handful of versions. They make a Stability Tour in a bunch of colors. They make a carbon version, carbon weave version. They make a bunch, but they basically have built a really good putter shaft. I've messed with the Stability and Stability Tour, and I've actually got the Stability Polar in my lab putters. So messed with a handful of their shafts, and they're really, really good. The putter shafts are really, they've got a really stiff profile to them, and they're basically meant to make sure that, or ensure that head doesn't twist throughout the stroke or in impact. It's just meant to stay, everything stay on line. And people always ask me, are they worth it? And worth is always tough, because they're not cheap. I think they're above $200 for a shaft, for a putter shaft, and that's not cheap. But for some players that's worth it. Other players it's not. It just depends. I really like the feel. Does it make me? Am I making more putts with them? I can't say that that's the case, but I really do like that kind of stiff, stable feel. I don't like a ton of flex in my putter shafts, and I know with some of those stock steel shafts, you get a little kind of whippiness to that putter shaft, which does aid in feel. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. You get a lot of feel out of it, but it's not something that it's something I prefer to take out if I can. So for me, I really like the shafts and I like the feel of them. Are they making $220 more worth of putts more? Probably not, but that isn't the whole thing for me in wanting them in one of my putters. But that's what they're famous for. So if you're familiar with BGT and the Stability putter shafts, they have now come out with a wood shaft, and the wood shaft there is called the Brava, Brava, and it is a super lightweight shaft that's meant to be extremely stable while still being ultra lightweight, so you can swing it faster. And they make it in a couple. It's kind of a setup there where they basically make a light flex and a regular flex and a stiff flex, and that's it. So if you're one of those 130 mile an hour swinging type people, it's probably not going to be something that fits in your something that's not going to fit your swing. This is basically built for they kind of speed rate each one. So the stiff flex is basically around 95 miles an hour, which is what it's kind of built for. They basically have, and then they have the regular flex, which is built for a little slower. I'm trying to remember exactly what those numbers were, but basically they made this shaft to be extremely lightweight, extremely stable, make ability to swing it a lot faster. It uses a lot of high-end carbon fibers in there, a lot of premium Torre carbon fiber inside the shaft. And especially they build in their own Speed Flight Energy NRG technology in there. So extremely strong fibers, very lightweight. and it's got some flex to it. I mean, it's not, if you look at, a regular or a typical stiff flex shaft that's, say 60 grams or something like that. This thing definitely has more flex to it. And like I said, the stiff shaft is built around a 95 mile an hour club speed. Regular is built around 85, and the light flex or A flex is built around a kind of a 75 mile an hour. So these things are made for people who aren't swinging at tour speeds, swinging at more average club head speeds for average golfers, and it's looking to increase the how fast they swing it and add some energy transfer to increase ball speed. So it's really made for increasing ball speed, but it also uses some high end fiber in there to keep it stable and to keep it consistent. So I'm like a 10. I was kind of down around 104, and then I was out hitting like outdoors and warmer days and all that, and I've been back up around kind of 106 with the driver. We were hitting a few balls with the full swing kit over the weekend, and I was that was reading kind of that 106 number when I was swinging it decent. So I'm a little faster than the stiff is really rated for, but and I kind of asked the people at BGT, and I was just like, is this not going to necessarily work for me then? Like, should I just not review it? Because they, sent us all the info on this thing being released, and I was like, maybe it's a golf shaft. I of course want to try it, but I kind of asked him. I said, like, listen, I see that this thing is, there's no X Flex option. It just goes up to stiff, and it just, it's kind of rated around 95 miles an hour. I kind of told them I'm kind of around that 104, 106 area. Should I still try it? And they were like, yeah, still give it a try. We'll see. So I did. They didn't recommend it. I did. I went through and tipped it an inch, just to, maybe make it just a touch stiffer, or play just a hair tighter. So I did tip it an inch, just to add maybe just a little bit to it to see if it would be kind of, get to be that tweener shaft. And then played it basically at 45 inches. And I played it in the Rogue ST Max LS. I hit it in the Cobra head, hit it in a couple heads over the past few weeks. And I do have to say, for being a really lightweight, shaft, it is pretty consistent. First of all, it's super smooth. It's definitely flexible. When you put it down, you install it in the head, and you give it the waggle test, it's gonna waggle. There's some flex to it. It's going to be that way, and that's how it's designed. They kind of compare themselves a little bit to Autoflex. I mean, when you go on their site, they kind of compare things to Mitsubishi Tensei. They don't really say which model, and they also compare themselves to the Autoflex. And they're basically claiming that they're a little bit longer and a little bit tighter dispersion than both those shafts. So it is an interesting thing, because I've never hit the Autoflex stuff. I know people have asked me, have you hit that? And I have not. But this kind of has that same, super lightweight. The stiff flex is 54 grams. The torque on it is 4.3, which I know some people look at and say, well, that's kind of high. For a shaft at 54 grams, I don't think that's really that high. I think it's actually a fairly low number, considering when you look at some of the softer playing, higher launching shafts out there. The torque numbers can be in the fives. I mean, they're even higher. So 4.3, I think, isn't too bad at all. It's definitely a higher launching shaft. They even say it's kind of a high launch shaft, kind of mid spin. But yeah, so I tipped it an inch, threw it in play, and when I played in league, the first night I played it, I think we played the front nine, which usually at St. Clair Shores, the front nine I don't hit driver. I said, heck with it, I'm going to hit driver on a bunch of holes just so I can hit the shaft. So I didn't hit it on one because I think that it was downwind a little bit. I didn't want to worry about going into the road. Hit it on two, absolutely bombed one. I was using Arcos at the time too, so I hit it like 296 is what it said from tee. I was pinned high, right of the green, chipped it on, a terrible wedge shot on, and made par, and walked off. And I hit it a couple other times, and honestly hit it really, really well. You are a little aware of the flex in the shaft, and I think my tempo definitely slowed down with this shaft, knowing that it was so flexible. But even with a swing speed that's about 10 miles an hour faster than what they recommend, it still really held up well in terms of stability. It definitely was consistent. It went pretty darn straight. If I got real quick, it was going left, and that's totally understandable with a more flexible shaft and again swinging a little faster than what it's rated for. But if I had a good tempo, nice easy swing and hit it, it went a long way. It was really easy to swing. Like I said, the feel on it is really good. It's really smooth. Like with any flexible shaft, super easy to load. And the kick at impact was just extremely aggressive. I mean, when the club head got to the bottom of the swing, you could definitely feel there was a ton of energy there, and that ball really took off the face. The Rogue ST, that head's a little light, so the swing weight was a little light on that one. I probably needed to add a little lead tape, but I hit it actually really really well. So I don't know if it was just me consciously thinking about the flexibility of the shaft or what. The launch, for being touted as a high launch shaft on BGT's site, I really think it was kind of more of a mid high. I don't think it wasn't crazy high. The ball came out flatter than I expected. Again, kind of expected it to kind of throw the ball way up in the air, spin a ton. So when I put it in the Rogue and the Cobra head, I basically set them both to lower lofts. So both 10-5 heads, set them lower, and went out there expecting the ball still to just sky balls, just stuff to go straight in the air. Definitely a little flatter and a little lower trajectory than I thought. Like it was definitely more mid high than high, and it was flat. Like I thought for sure, any type of wind, any type of like missing the swing, you're gonna see the spin kind of go crazy. The ball's gonna balloon up, and it really didn't. I kind of was expecting it and waiting for it to happen, and it never did. But I hit a great shot. Like I think it was on six. Is it six? Yeah, six over there. Hit a ball that there's a big. You can kind of go for the green and you can get it there. Big hitters can get it there with no problem. But there's a huge tree that kind of protects the right side, and then there's some trees on the left, so you kind of got to like hit it through the field goal. And I mean, I hit that tree a good way up, and it just kind of fell straight down. And I had a short little wedge on, but that ball was still going with no problem. I'm pretty sure it would have been, if it was right at the green, it would have been probably right on the front of the green had I hit it straight. But it's an absolute, it's a cannon. I mean, it really goes. Like I said, if you're a fast guy, if you're like that, that 120, 115 type guy, it's probably not going to fit you. It just, I think you'll just overpower it. But if you're that person who's that right about 100 miles an hour, even a little less, and you're looking to add a little distance, it seems to go. I never expected to hit it as far as I did. Like I said, Arcos read 296 there. I had another one on the back nine. I think it was on the hole 10. That was like 286. I mean, it was like everything was really long according to Arcos. But again, the ball flight wasn't crazy high. It didn't balloon up. It seemed pretty flat. Even stuff if you hit a little cut. I mean, the cuts would definitely rise up a little bit and get a little higher, so you could add some spin with hitting a cut. But I mean, any type of draw, it was flat. It hit and it ran. It was pretty impressive. And then again, the stability on it was really good. The Cobra head, when I took that one out, I swung it pretty poorly. I was hitting everything. I was kind of coming up and early extending, kind of coming up out of the shot, hitting everything kind of low on the face, and the ball was still getting out there a really really good ways. I mean, it was coming out low, it was coming out flat, but it would hit, roll, and it's still like the head wasn't. It wasn't like it was just flopping everywhere. It really wasn't. I mean, there's some flex there, and you feel it load and come down, but in terms of making center contact, I was hitting it in the center of the face. It was just really low, and balls were still getting out there, playing pretty much. I hit a few in the fairway that way. I mean, just hit some good shots. I mean, the right side for the most part of this shaft, if you're swinging it, above 95, whatever, the right side is probably going to be out of play. You don't have to worry about that. Like I said, if you get real quick with it, you can get it to go left. I hit one or two that, I mean, it's me, but definitely got it to go left pretty easily. Nothing crazy, but again, I'm also a person who probably they didn't design this for necessarily, but no, the kick at impact is really aggressive. It's easy to square up if you're somebody who kind of fights the right. I mean, this thing when it releases, easy to square up, easy to turn it over, hit it straight, even hit a little draw with it, and for being as kind of crazy flexible as it feels compared to some of the 6X stuff and all that the extra stiff shafts that I've hit recently. I mean, to be as kind of flexible as it is, it really is pretty darn consistent. So, and like I said, it's really long. I mean, I never, people always ask how far do you hit it, whatever. I'm like a 260, maybe 270 guy if I really hit it. And this thing, like I said, I mean, I had a handful of shots that Arcos measured off it. Like I said, the one was 296, a handful in the 280s. It was just, definitely longer than I expected. But I think this is one of those that, if you're somebody who, slowed down a little bit, wants to add a little more distance, they have their research on there that, how much longer it is than some of these other shafts. I don't really get into that part of it, but I can tell you this: it's definitely long, even for somebody that it really truly wasn't designed for. But it definitely went a long way, and it paired up really well with these new heads that are big, and they've got a lot of stability themselves. The shaft worked really well with it. And it's not cheap. I mean, I'll tell you that right now. I mean, the one downside to it is it's $399, so it's a little higher price point than some of the high end stuff from some of the big manufacturers. But like I said, 54 grams. I'll call it a mid high launch. Some other players who hit it higher than I do may look at that and say no, it's definitely high, and they claim it's mid spin, and I think it's definitely that's probably pretty accurate. I didn't hit it on launch monitors because you guys know I don't really. That's not my thing, really. I mean, I'd rather take it out to the course and see where it plays. And I can tell you that I was in some spots that, I've never, I mean, granted, I don't hit driver on two and stuff like that typically, but I was in spots that, that I've never been with before and measured some distances that I don't typically account for when I'm out there playing golf. 296 is not something that I account for or plan on hitting anytime. But to see it happen out there was pretty cool with this thing. So, but like I said, it's a pretty high end piece, and it'll be interesting. I want to toss it in some other heads too, and see how it performs. Like I said, I used it in the Rogue ST Max LS and the Cobra LTDX were the two that I played it in, and then I definitely want to toss it in the Stealth. Maybe even toss it. It'd be interesting in the PXG head because it's a 12-degree head. But it's super wide open, so it'd be interesting to see how it plays there. So I'm going to play it some more in some other heads, see how it goes. But again, if you're looking for something where you're looking to add some distance, you're looking to go super lightweight, you've been interested in some of those more flexible but stable shafts. This thing here is definitely something that's probably worth looking at. It's definitely cheaper than the Autoflex stuff that's out there. It's probably half the price of those. And like I said, 54 grams, and it's pretty flexible, but it's pretty darn stable. So however they pulled that off in terms of that design, they did a pretty darn good job with it. So like I said, if you match it up with, if you're somebody in that 75, 85, 95 range for swing speed, I think you could definitely see, try this thing out and see if you get a few more yards out of it, or maybe launch it just a little bit higher in order to gain a few more yards, something like that. But it's a pretty good shaft. It was fun to hit. I was super impressed with how it played because of my expectations, being that it wasn't something that was built really for my swing, was pretty low, and it by far exceeded those expectations. So the breakthrough golf technologies. Breakthrough Golf Technology Brava. It's a pretty cool shaft. The color's pretty cool. It matches the Rogues. That was the first one I put it in. Was the Rogues. I was like, that kind of matches the color with the black and copper. But a very cool shaft. Like I said, great feel. And like I said, kind of that mid-high launch and probably mid-spin is probably more accurate for me. Again, everybody's mileage is going to vary when they go and hit that. But if you go to breakthroughgolftech.com, it's right there on their page. You look under wood shafts, and the Brava driver shaft is right there. So pretty cool, pretty exciting, and like I said, a pretty cool piece for I think players who are looking to go this route. I think it's definitely something that should be on your radar. It's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting, and I think they did a pretty nice job designing this thing. So that was the Brava shaft, and then. The other one we'll talk a little bit about, which was interesting, the new Pxg Wedges. So Pxg just came out with the new 0311 triple forged wedges, and definitely a much different look than the Sugar Daddy 2s. Sugar Daddy 2s are milled, and they've got screws all over them and all that. These are just solid one-piece forged wedges. Pretty clean back, just the Pxg logo, and they've got a similar shape to the Sugar Daddies, and where they've got a little bit of a higher toe. They do have full face grooves, which I know not everybody is a huge fan of. I know in the Sugar Daddies when I first talked about those, and think I posted a photo on Instagram. People were not happy about the full face grooves. Full face grooves throughout the whole set. So from 50 degree all the way down to 60, you're going to get, or 62, from 50 all the way down to 60, you're getting the full face grooves. A little higher toe design, so you got a little more real estate, and it can also manipulate the CG of the club a little bit more. But yeah, triple forged out of, I'm pretty sure the carbon steel these are. I don't think it says exactly, but yeah, got a little higher toe on it. So that way, if you do catch it a little higher in the face, there's still some groove there. There's still some mass behind it to get the ball up and out. And then yeah, these are 8620 carbon. So and then the one I would say the one downside of these, they only have one sole option. They're not making, at least not right now. They're not making multiple versions of this. They're not making like a high bounce and a low bounce. These are basically versions of kind of the BP grind, which is the higher bounce grind on the Sugar Daddies. They look very similar to that. They're slightly different, but they're like that's what they're kind of molded after. When you look at, like I said, I have the Sugar Daddy, the BP grind, which is the Bob Parsons grind, which is a little, it's a thinner sole but higher bounce. These kind of have that same idea. If you look at them, they're pretty narrow soled, but they do have a good amount of bounce. The 54 is I think the 50 through 56 are all 12 degrees. Then you get into the 58 through 62, and they're 9. But they're still, like I said, they play a little higher than they're rated. And then with it, there's a little bit of trailing edge relief, nothing crazy, but just enough where you can open the face up a little bit. The leading edge won't go crazy high off the ground. When you set them up, they look good. I mean, they look a little bit high toe-ish, but they're not crazy. I think they're a very good mix between high toe and a traditional wedge. I think they're a good mix there. They're not crazy high. They're not traditional. I think you get a little bit of the best of both worlds. The full face grooves, some people aren't going to like it. I don't mind it really. It does take a little getting used to in the 50, because your gap wedge, you're traditionally not, used to seeing that. More sand wedges have been coming with full face grooves, so, it's getting more common there. And then lob wedges, there's all sorts of ones that have full face grooves there. So, those type of things are, I'm getting over it. It's not a huge deal. I know some players, they complain about that. They don't like the look. But I do have to say, the full face grooves can save you, sometimes. I've had some shots where, missed it really, really far on the toe. You probably would have missed the grooves or maybe got half the ball in the grooves. On a traditional wedge, here they're all full in the grooves. And you just get a little more consistent ball flight with it. But triple forged out of carbon steel, they are definitely soft. I will say that these are a little softer than the Sugar Daddies. Sugar Daddies to me have just a little bit of click to them. These are definitely a little softer. I wouldn't say that they're like Mizuno soft or Mura soft or whatever. Like, they still have a little bit of just a touch of firmness to them compared to those. But comparing them to a cast wedge, stuff like that, they are definitely soft. The spin is really consistent. I will still say, for me, I think I spin the Sugar Daddies a little bit more. They check up just a hair harder for me, but the triple forges are pretty good. No matter what lie, again, you hit it off the fairway, it's going to check up really hard. You're going to see some major backspin. If you're hitting it out of the rough or something like that, deeper grass, you're going to see a little more release with the ball, which is totally expected. The miss hits perform really well. There's, like I said, a lot of mass up top, and especially when you get into kind of like the 58 and the 60, they definitely beef up that top section, just kind of raising that CG and getting it closer to the center of the club face. But you definitely, even if you hit it high in the face, you're going to get a ball that comes out a little better, comes out a little farther, has some spin to it. You're just going to get a more consistent shot with some of these full face grooves and some of the weight moved up high into the toe. The sole grind's great. I mean, for soft conditions, it's really good. It doesn't want to dig. The leading edge is just a little bit rounded. So if you do get down on it, get a little steep on it, it's going to hit there and want to get through the turf pretty quickly. But like I said, it definitely has a decent amount of bounce on it. And playing it off any type of soft condition is really good. Playing it out of the bunkers is great too. You'll get some good float through the sand. I haven't played it in like super fluffy sand yet. That has not happened. But in traditional Michigan sand, that's a little bit. I'm trying to get this thing to balance on this other shaft here. But in the traditional, a little bit heavier sand that is Metro Detroit courses, it floats really well through there. It doesn't doesn't want to dig when it gets in there, especially when you open the face. It definitely adds a ton of bounce because the sole is kind of I don't want to call it a full sole because it's really narrow, but it is a full sole. I mean, it definitely has a it definitely has some float to it. When you open it up, there's a ton of sole that pops out there. Um, and then like I said, out of the sand, it works really well. If you're struggle there a little bit, I think this could definitely help. If you play in softer conditions, it's not going to want to dig. If you play super firm, super tight, again, this may interact with the turf a little differently there. You may get a little more of the club kind of hitting and bouncing out and kind of skipping into the ball a little bit if you're not 100% precise with it. But it still plays pretty well. I think, opening up the face is fine. On the tightest and firmest of lies, yes, that leading edge is going to come up a little bit. So it's going to take a little more precision, a little work to get up and under, get under the ball there. But if you're playing in a little softer condition, you open up the face, little, lies aren't quite as tight and firm. It plays no problem with that leading edge coming up a little bit because it's going to sit kind of in that turf a little more and actually get through fairly well. The trailing edge relief is nice. Like I said, it could be maybe a little more aggressive to keep the leading edge down, but there's only so much sole there to really take off because it is pretty narrow. If I had my choice, I wouldn't mind seeing a little more heel, a little more trailing edge relief to be able to open that thing up just a little bit. It'd make it just a little easier to open up and hit some of those delicate little high flying shots off the fairway. But flighting them down, flighting them low, flighting them high, super easy to do. I think that that added mass up on the toe, the thing doesn't just hit, the ball doesn't just hit and go straight in the air. You're able to control that trajectory a little bit, hit some low spinners in, and still, if you want to play it high, be able to kind of open the face a little bit and play it high. It's pretty versatile that way. Like I said, I mean, unless you're playing on crazy tight, crazy firm conditions, then the sole might be a little much there, but if you're playing pretty average to soft conditions, I think you're able to hit every shot in the book with it. The responsiveness is good. You get a little clicky outside center. You get a little bit of click outside center, which for responsiveness, for letting you know you missed it, is pretty good. But when you strike at center, it's pretty darn solid and offers a pretty good thud. I've had the whole set, the 50, 54, 58, and the 54, 58 are really, I mean, they're great wedges around the green. The 50 is a little interesting because it is, a little higher toe. It's got the full phase grooves. Taking full shots with that it just takes getting used to looking at it. Once you can do that, you're fine because it performs just like a 50 degree. There's no real change there. The one thing I do like about having the 50 with the full phase grooves, which I think I talked about many shows ago with another set that had full face in those lower lofts. But like for me, I get I shut the face at the top and then I kind of come over the top down on the ball and I get real steep, and that's kind of my miss. And when I do that, I strike it closer out towards the toe. And, typically you're not striking it so far on the toe where you're not hitting the grooves, but you never have to worry about it with this. And I feel like you do get a little more consistent ball flight, especially on toe strikes, even with that 50. Even though you think like, hey, I don't really need the full grooves, I'm not hitting that thing out of the sand or whatever the reason you don't need it. On some full shots, if you have kind of that miss where you miss it under the toe, it does offer a little more carry, a little more consistency into the green, where you're not going to get it back to pin high like you would if you hit it flush, but you may be able to catch that front of the green and just have a long putt as opposed to chipping it back on and trying to get it close there. But the 50, probably is the easiest transition in terms of playing. The 54 compared to my D grind, like I said, leading edge comes off the ground just a little bit more. So on really tight stuff, it takes a little more precision to get the ball, up and on the green and where you want it. Out of the sand, though, I will say that the full sole on that probably floats a little better. I played, like I said, I played Red Run on Tuesday. Their sand is super fluffy, super light. I think this wedge would have played a little better than the D grind. The D grind wasn't bad. I hit it pretty well, but I feel like this, probably would have had just a little more float. You probably kind of could have dug in just maybe a hair closer to the ball compared to, say the D grind there. But, little shots, you press it forward, you can get the leading edge down, hit little low spinners in there. If you need to open the face, hit it high, you can do that. I mean, it's pretty versatile, like I said, for everybody other than the shallowest players on really firm conditions. I think it's a really versatile wedge outside of that. Now the 58, 60, all that, you know, 90 degrees of balance is pretty average for the lob wedge, so that I don't think there's as big of an issue with. But you know, for some people who play really low bounce sand wedges, you know, they don't offer this in that, but you know, the 12 degree isn't too bad in terms of versatility. Like I said, the spin's really good. I'll give the slight nod to the Sugar Daddy 2s on terms of you know, hard bite. Full shots, I mean, you're getting the ball to stop and back up with no problem. Partial shots, you know, you'll have a pretty controlled release of how far that ball's going. And they come out with some decent spin, you know, out of the rough. I mean, it's, you know, the rough, you're always going to get some release. You're never going to be able to, like, you know, back something up out of the rough, it seems. But this thing here, I mean, you can get it to pretty much drop stop from just about anywhere. And if, you know, out of the rough, you'll get a little bit of release. But, you know, it is consistent, and you don't have to worry about, you know, is it going to release 20 feet this time, is going to release 10 feet. Like, it's going to be pretty much the same every time. And, you know, and the nice other thing, too, is it's super clean. If you're somebody like myself who loves to stamp, the whole back of the thing is open to stamp. You know, you can stamp all sorts of stuff in there, full sayings, quotes from movies, whatever you want, which is pretty cool. Like I said, I like the shaping. The toe is a little bit higher, and it's a little more edgy. You know, I like a little bit rounder wedge, but the shaping on these things are pretty good. Minimal, I mean, the leading edge is pretty straight. It's got a minimal radius to it, so, you know, that look should suit a lot of players' eyes. But overall, just a solid wedge. You know, like I said, it's something that I would compare to some other higher bounce grinds in other wedges in terms of the sole. If you're somebody who plays like a Vokey D grind, or you know, like a Callaway X grind, something like that, those may have a little versatility in terms of opening the faces. But I think this gives you a little more forgiveness in soft conditions and bunker play. So, but it's, you know, probably plays in a similar you know, in a similar ballpark to some of those. But overall, like I said, a really solid wedge. It'd be interesting to see the black one. I haven't seen the black one in person yet. I saw the 0211 irons in black at the Pxg store, and those looked actually really cool. So it'd be pretty interesting to see what these look like in dark finish in hand. But yeah, it's pretty sweet. They do like a robotic polishing on the sole, so it isn't CNC milled like the Sugar Daddy. They do like a robotic polishing that should keep things, you know, really consistent from wedge to wedge. So if you have one wedge, you go buy another one. They should play pretty much identical because, you know, human polishing, human grinding of hands, there's some errors there. You can't necessarily make it exactly the same. As much as you try, and you know how skilled the craftsman is, there's still unfortunately variables there. So doing it robotically definitely helps with some of that consistency and how it will, you know, from wedge to wedge interact with the turf and plays. But overall, just a you know, really solid wedge, and you know, price wise here, definitely a better price point than the Sugar Daddy 2s. I think these are about $159 right now, is like a, you know, introductory price kind of. And then I think the Sugar Daddy 2s are like $449, so definitely cheaper, a little easier on the wallet, while still you know, having a really good feel to them and performing really well. So you know, if you're in the line from new wedges, definitely might be something to look at, especially if you're a player who, you know, plays in a little softer condition, needs a little help in the sand. I mean, you know, those kind of things fit, you know, into your game. Definitely something to maybe take a look at and give them a whirl. But I thought they were pretty good, and you know, I played them pretty solid for 2 weeks, and then yeah, like I said, they're really good feeling. And if you go to just, you know, pxg.com, they're right on the front page there. I mean, they're one of the newest products, so you can check out a little bit more. Lofts go from 50 to 62, all by two, so 50, 52, 54. Then, like I said, just one sole grind right now, where the, you know, the Sugar Daddy 2s had two different ones. Here we're only running with one at the moment. So if you want to check those out, like I said, pxg.com, check out more of the on these wedges there. I think that's all I've got today. I apologize, I didn't do a Q&A yesterday. Again, I was at the Rocket for most of the day, and you know, doing that kind of thing, so couldn't really pull it off from there. But maybe I'll try to do one today, a little bit, you know, for maybe just a little bit this afternoon, if I can pull it off. So if you want to join in on that, check me out on Instagram at ClubJunkiePod. That's probably the best way. If you have any questions, any comments, anything like that, hit me up there. If you're watching this on YouTube, it'd be great to, like, you know, subscribe, like, all that. It really does help the whole algorithm, helps our channel grow and all that. So really appreciate it if you do that. If you're listening, wherever you're listening on the podcast, please subscribe if you could. It'd be awesome. And yeah, so I think that's all I've got. Again, hopefully you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy watching the Rocket. yeah, it's my kind of hometown tournament in a sense. So I'm excited to see who comes out ahead on that one. But have a good weekend. Play some golf. And play some better golf than me, because honestly, not that that's hard, but just do that. So, anyway, hopefully you guys have a good one. We'll talk next week.